Alright guys, so here we are back at the batteries. I was having an issue with one of these terminals right here overheating. That's why it's cut off and exposed conductor here. And this is the second time I've had to cut this wire or this terminal off on the end of this wire. Looking further down into where the BMS is connected, I notice that it's really not connected too well anymore. You can kind of see it better there. Just not a good connection. And it's probably the reason why I'm getting a burned up connector on this end because of that connection. Now we're going to go ahead and tear this thing apart. I've already cut all the plastic wrapping here and expose everything, pull this off, pull this apart, unsolder it, resolder it, and hook it all back together on the bike. This battery altogether is about 3 years old now, or coming up on 3 years old, and it's still doing pretty well for used cells. So I'm actually impressed on longevity of these batteries. All right, so get to it. This is the spot weld that I actually use in 650 holders to make it a little bit more organized, and it seems to hold up pretty well. I mean, I don't see any cold solder joints or anything like that. Let's keep going. I should probably desolder that. Alright, so now I have to get to this wire right here. Just desolder this and clean it up, put it back in. Alright, so here's the wire that I removed out of the BMS controller. As you can see, only half of that is actually soldered, and the other half is not tinned correctly. So I'm going to have to fix that. Alright guys, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to try and do it to where you can see it. The wire is not all that shiny. It's shiny, but it's not. This one here is a better example. It's just very oxidized when I strip it back, which means it overheated way too much during use, and now there's going to be a lot more resistance in this wire, and I really don't feel comfortable putting it back on. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find my other wire boxed up somewhere after we moved, and see if I can replace that. I have actually shortened it up about 6 to 8 inches before this because I burned up the end of the wire where the connection was. For this guy here, and you can actually see the difference in the wire color from when it's burned up and when it's not. So let's see if I can bring this a little closer. You can see how this one is much darker. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this one and solder this guy in. Before I go ahead and solder this in, I'm going to go ahead and tin it with some solder. We're good. Alright, now I gotta go ahead and solder it into this hole here. Now to do that I gotta peel all this heat shrink back. I can also double check my solder job on this here. Make sure everything's good there as well. And this one is really good. No overheating, no cold solder, no cracking. Alright, now that I've got it on here, as you can see it's sticking out on the bottom. That was with me cutting some off, so you can see how long that is. Obviously it's too long, so I'm going to go ahead and take my straight cuts and just cut them off. You don't have to cut all the way to the board, you can leave like an 1/8 on the back side. And it looks just like that. I'm going to go ahead and put this back on. Just going to go ahead and reattach this to the battery. It's a much better connection right here. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and resolder this back to the battery, which is my negative wire on the last leg of the battery. And you need a powerful heat gun to do this, otherwise you'll overheat the battery pack and risk having a fire. That's hot. Might be good enough. All right, so I have this soldered on now. That's nice and tight and good connection. Not going to go anywhere. And basically I just hook up all my connections again back on the BMS. I couldn't pull these away, obviously, because they were already soldered to the battery. I probably should redo this sticky pad that I have, the double-sided sticky pad on here. But I think the cover, I'm going to put this cover back on, just tape over this. I don't have any extra to recover it. Goes this way. And this connection actually goes to the other battery that I first I have both batteries sitting here. This is the one that I built to have the additional voltage to make it 84 volts. Much nicer looking than my first original with the soldering and the hot glue and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a difference between having a BMS and not having a BMS. Alright guys, so I'm going to show you why I'm going to go around the BMS instead of through the BMS when I'm actually using the bike. Hopefully you guys can see. I think you can see that. All right, just keep an eye on the voltage. So I'm fully charged and I'm only showing 83.8 volts. Go around the BMS and I am at 84.2. So that's exactly why I'm going to go around. There's a BMS. I'll just use it for charging only. I think it'll be fine that way. I just got to make sure I don't undercharge it. I pretty much know what my range is and things like that. So as long as I keep an eye on that, I should be good. Way better. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and slide these covers back on and just tape it up. Since I don't have any extra right now, I gotta order it. That's one of the reasons why I cut it the way I did, so I can just kind of pull it off and put it back on. Just like that. And this side. Like that. And I just tape it here all the way around. Like nothing ever happened. There you go. Now we should have power. Voila. And with the battery being off for as long as it was, it kept its memory, which is absolutely amazing. So on this 84 volt kit, I've got 502 miles. All right guys, so here's my first video in Florida.